So this first story comes from a dude named Ellis. He used to live in this tiny apartment. Not fancy, not strange looking. Just one of those places where everything feels a little too quiet. The layout was simple, the walls were thin, and the floors had that soft creak you only notice at night. No big red flags. Except for the kitchen. The kitchen always felt like it had its own mood. Not the warm, homey kind. More like alert, aware. Things started small. Ella said he'd leave a pan on the stove before going to sleep. Nothing special, just something he forgot to put away. Then he'd wake up, walk into the kitchen half asleep, and boom, the pan would be sitting on the counter. Easy to brush off. Maybe he moved it without thinking. Maybe he dream-walked. Normal human brain stuff. But the second morning, it was on top of the microwave. The third morning, it was inside the sink, totally dry, like it hadn't just been placed there, but placed there with intention. No water, no soap residue, no sound during the night, just a cold, quiet object that refused to stay where he left it. And it didn't stop. Every single morning, that same pan would be in a new spot, always neat, always silent, always unsettling, in a way that didn't register as dangerous, but definitely didn't feel normal. Ellis tried to be cool about it, tried telling himself it was stress or his brain running on low battery, or maybe he was bumping into it without noticing. But deep down, he knew something wasn't adding up. The moment everything flipped was one random night when Ellis decided he'd had enough guessing. He wanted a clear answer. So he stayed awake, lights off, sitting on the couch with the TV playing quietly just to make things feel normal. From where he sat, he had a partial view of the kitchen through the hallway. Not perfect, but enough to catch anything obvious. Hours go by, nothing moves, nothing taps, nothing creaks. Just that heavy late-night stillness. Then he hears it. A soft tap, tap, tap. Like metal gently touching metal. Not loud, but impossible to ignore. The kind of sound that forces your attention whether you want it or not. Ellis peeks around the corner. Everything is exactly where it should be. The pan is still. The counters are clean. No movement. He sits back down. Another minute passes. Then the tapping hits again, sharper this time. A clear ting, like someone flicked the pan with purpose. Ellis bolts up, heart racing, storming into the kitchen, ready to catch a rat, a prank, anything logical. What he finds makes no sense. The pan is spinning, not rolling, not wobbling, spinning in place on the stove as if someone twisted it hard and let it go. The rest of the room is still. There is no breeze, no vibration, no reason for it to move at all. And the worst detail? When he grabs the pan to stop it, the metal feels freezing cold. Not room temperature, not slightly chilled. Ice cold, like it came out of a freezer that never existed. That's the moment his whole brain said, nope. He didn't argue, didn't investigate, didn't stay to see if something else would move. He grabbed his keys, walked out of the apartment at midnight, and crashed at a friend's place without explaining much. When he returned the next morning to pack his essentials, the entire apartment felt normal again. Calm. Too calm. He walked into the kitchen expecting chaos, or maybe nothing at all. What he found was worse. The pan was back on the stove, placed neatly, but flipped upside down. Not messy, not threatening, just deliberate. Like whatever had been moving it wanted him to know it wasn't random. It wasn't an accident. It was a message, a simple one. I moved this, I can move more. Ellis grabbed his stuff, locked the door behind him, and never spent another night there. Even now, when he tells the story, he laughs a little to stay calm, but you can tell it still lingers in the back of his mind. The idea that something quiet, something patient, something he never saw was sharing that kitchen with him, watching him, waiting for him to notice. And honestly, once you hear it, you start thinking about your own place a little differently. That one pan you forgot, that one drawer that never sits right, that one sound you swear you heard at 3 a.m. Sometimes the smallest things are the ones that stick with you the longest.
Next up is a story from a girl named Marissa. She wasn't the type who jumped at shadows or panicked over small stuff. She worked late shifts, lived alone by choice, and always handled weird moments with a casual, lol, sure, whatever. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't paranoid. She was just normal. But there was one thing she experienced that refused to fit into the category of normal life moment. Something she still can't explain, even after moving out. Marissa kept a whiteboard on her fridge. Nothing fancy, just a simple grocery list board with a tiny marker attached to the corner. She used it for milk reminders, snack ideas, random notes. It was always tidy because she wiped it down constantly. Her handwriting was clean, rounded, and easy to recognize. One night, around 2 a.m., she woke up thirsty. She shuffled half asleep into the kitchen, turned on the small counter light, and grabbed a glass. As she filled it, she glanced at the fridge. Her whiteboard had a message on it. A message she didn't write. It said, "You forgot something." Just those 3 words, sharp handwriting, slanted letters, uneven pressure, like someone wrote it fast or with irritation. Marissa stared at it long enough for the water in her glass to overflow. She wiped the board and chalked it up to sleep deprivation. Maybe she wrote it earlier while rushing around and didn't remember. It happens. She went back to bed, annoyed, but not scared. Morning comes. Sunlight in the kitchen. Everything normal. She makes breakfast, turns to grab creamer from the fridge. And the board has another message. Don't erase it. This time she feels a twinge in her chest. Not panic, just discomfort, a wrongness. She checks every lock in the apartment. Front door locked, back door locked, windows shut tight. No signs of someone entering. Nothing disturbed. She tries to recreate the handwriting, but she can't. Her hand refuses to make those harsh lines. She erases the board again anyway. Later that day, she keeps glancing toward the kitchen like something is waiting for her there. But the board stays clean. Nothing changes. She eats dinner, watches a show, goes to sleep. At 3:17 a.m., she remembers the exact time because she checked her phone. She wakes up to a sound, soft at first, repetitive. Familiar, the subtle squeak of a marker being dragged across a whiteboard. She sits up slowly. The sound continues. A long stroke, pause, another stroke, like someone writing with pressure, not casually, deliberately. She gets out of bed and walks toward the hallway, taking tiny steps. The sound gets clearer with each step. Her heart races so hard she can hear it over the squeaking. She stops at the entrance to the kitchen, staring through the dark. The whiteboard is no longer clean. It's filled, completely covered. Marker lines overlapping, words squeezed into every space. Not random scribbles, actual sentences, instructions, bullet points, notes, a full recipe, measurements, baking times, mixing steps, comments in the margins. But the writing looked angry, strokes pressed so hard they dented the board, some letters thicker from being retraced again and again, like whoever wrote it wasn't just writing, they were forcing the message in. At the very top, in large, uneven letters, was the title, Your Last Meal. Marissa doesn't scream, she doesn't faint, she just slowly backs out of the kitchen, grabs her bag, her shoes, and her phone, and leaves. No jacket, no planning, just pure instinct. She stays at a co-worker's place that night, explaining only that something very wrong happened in her apartment. The co-worker doesn't push for details. Marissa looks pale enough that anyone would believe her. The next morning, they both go back with sunlight pouring into the place. Everything feels calmer, normal even. No writing on the floor, no sounds, no odd smells, just quiet. She walks to the kitchen, heart pounding, expecting the board to be full again. But it's blank, except for one single line in the same sharp handwriting. You didn't finish it. That's when she decides she's done with the apartment. She starts packing immediately. She takes only her must-have items and calls movers for the rest. She switches apartments within 3 days and buys a brand new fridge. She never puts a whiteboard on it again. Even now, she says the scariest part wasn't the messages. It wasn't the idea of someone writing them. It wasn't even the title, Your Last Meal. What really stayed with her was the tone, the pressure, the sense that whatever wrote those messages wasn't trying to communicate. It was trying to correct her. And that's something no locked door can fix.
This last story? Easily the one that sticks with people the longest. Not because it's the loudest or the wildest, but because it's the kind that creeps into your brain when you're alone in the kitchen at night. The kind that makes you glance at your appliances and wonder if they're a little too quiet or not quiet enough. So, Rowan lived in a shared house with 2 roommates. Chill place, nothing special. 3 bedrooms, 1 hallway, 1 fridge that came with the rental. The type of budget-friendly house where everything works well enough. But after a few months of living there, they all started noticing something weird. Something they couldn't explain and didn't really want to think about. The fridge breathed. Not like a broken motor hiccuping or a fan struggling. Not like normal appliance noise. It was softer, more deliberate. A slow inhale followed by a long, slow exhale. The kind of sound that makes you freeze because your brain can't file it under mechanical. It didn't happen often, maybe once every few nights, always late, always when someone was alone in the kitchen. They tried recording it multiple times, holding their phones up at 2 or 3 a.m., but the recordings always came out fuzzy or silent. It was like the sound refused to be captured, but all 3 swore they heard it. One night, Rowan stayed up past midnight playing games. How silent,
Roommates out of town. Just him and the hum of the TV. Around 1:30 a.m., he got thirsty. He paused his game, stretched, and headed toward the kitchen. The second he stepped onto the tile floor, the fridge breathed in. A deep inhale, slow, heavy. He froze on the spot, heart thumping. He'd heard this before, but never when he was completely alone in the house. Then came the exhale. Except this time, it wasn't slow. It shot out fast, sharp, like something inside the fridge got startled. Rowan backed up instantly, nearly tripping over his own feet. His eyes locked onto the fridge as another sound followed. A tiny, unmistakable click, like the door latch shifting. Not opening, not popping wide, just reacting. Like something inside had pushed. He grabbed the first weapon available, a broom leaning against the counter. Classic panic logic. He held it like a spear and waited. The fridge went silent again. No breathing, no clicking, no rattling. Just a heavy, quiet stillness so unnatural it made his skin crawl. Finally, after what felt like 5 full minutes, he got tired of waiting. He reached out, hands shaking, and pulled the fridge door open. At first, everything was normal. Cold air brushed his face. Light flicked on. Shelves looked the same as always. Leftovers, canned drinks, sauces, random snacks. But then he noticed something. The items on the middle shelf were pushed all the way to the back. Not messy, not toppled. Perfectly aligned, like someone had made space in front of them. A weirdly neat, intentional gap. Just big enough for something. He squinted, leaning in, and that's when it happened. A small tap hit the inner wall of the fridge. Once. He jumped. Then again. Twice. And then once more. 3 taps. Evenly spaced, deliberate. He didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't blink. And then something cold brushed across his wrist. Not condensation, not a drip, not a draft. Something with shape, like fingertips. He jerked his hand back so fast he knocked over a jar. The broom clattered to the floor. He slammed the fridge shut with every ounce of panic-fueled strength he had and sprinted back to his room like he was being chased. He locked the door, even though that wouldn't help against, well, whatever that was, and stayed awake until morning. When his roommates returned the next day, he told them everything. They laughed at first, until they walked into the kitchen and saw the fridge door slightly open. Not wide open, just cracked, as if something pushed it but couldn't step further. Inside, the middle shelf was reversed. Instead of items pushed to the back, everything had been pulled all the way forward, perfectly to the edge, lined up side by side. Like something inside was trying to get out. That was enough for all of them. They unplugged the fridge, dragged it outside, and left it on the curb by afternoon. New fridge arrived the next day. Life moved on. But Rowan says something strange happens. Every once in a while, when he's alone and walking past his kitchen late at night, he hears something. Faint. Not a hum, not a rattle. A breath. A slow inhale, followed by a soft exhale. Not coming from the new fridge, but from the empty corner where the old one used to stand. And he never checks. Not anymore. If these stories messed with your head even a little bit, hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around for more creepy home, kitchen, and late-night horror content just like this. And if you've got your own disturbing experience, send it through the email in the description. You might just hear it in one of our next videos.